Hello, Professor. This is my final project. It's performed on Visual Studio, and specifically, it's the Windows form. So, this right here is my program. So, when you launch the program, this is what you see, with a couple of exceptions. And first, instead of explaining how exactly everything works and all of that, I will first demonstrate the process. So we'll launch the program. So it prompts me for a username and a password, and even though I've created multiple of those by now, let's create a new one. So I will create a username that's Jimmy. Well, actually, you know what? First we'll click this. This is just a brief description about how you create that new password, that new account, I mean. And you'll notice that here, there's a little box right here that isn't visible when you actually launch the program. And I'll get into that later. So, with the username Jimmy and the password, I'm going to make the password. I could click the create a new account button, but to prove that I'm smarter than that, I will purposely leave this blank. And then it tells me that the confirm password box is empty. How fascinating. So let's say I leave this part empty. And then I put password in here. And I attempt to create a new account, and it tells me that the password box is empty. Let's say I put password here, and then I leave that blank. And I create a new account, and the username box is empty. Now, let's say I have all of this, but this is not right. And I create a new account, and the passwords don't match. So I've created a bunch of fail-safes to guarantee that no matter what happens, the account will, that the program will launch fine. Now, before I do this, let's test one more thing. Each password is saved on a file on the computer. So these are my already existing usernames. So let's create a username that already exists. So let's do dummy here. If I type in dummy and I attempt to create a new account, it'll tell me that that username already exists. So instead of using dummy, I will use Jimmy. And I will create my new account, and it tells me that I've created a new account, and then the program will restart. So now that I have the account Jimmy, and I have the password, I would be able to log in, but again, I want to show you some cool things. So if I have an incorrect password, it'll tell me that I have an incorrect username or password. And if I have the correct password, but I have the incorrect username, it'll tell me that I have the incorrect username and password. And maybe you've noticed that this lock here attempted to unlock, but was not able to. However, if all of the information is correct, I will click the login button. It'll tell me, welcome back, Jimmy, and the lock unlocks. So now I can get into all of the cool coding things that I've done here. The reason why I have this box here is because this is an invisible combo box that contains all of the names, all of the usernames. So when I launch this program, when the program launches, there's an event called form load, which is specified here. Now, when the form loads, I want to do a bunch of things. And one of those things is that I create this combo box, and then I fill that combo box with all of the usernames that exist. So if we could see that combo box, and I think I can actually make it visible. So if we could see that combo box, and I save it real quick, and I launch the program, it'll take a minute. Okay. and I launch the program, I can click this and I can actually see all of the usernames that I've created. Now, obviously, I don't want to just have that information floating out there, so instead of having that visible on true, I have it visible on false. And you can't see me adjusting that because my camera is in the way, but there is an option in the corner here that says visible, and I set the visible to false, so that way you can't see all of the available usernames. Now, why do I make this invisible box and then fill it with all of the usernames? Well, let's say in that first example that I showed, where I'm creating a new account, and I enter in a username that already exists. Well, I don't actually know what happens if you create multiple accounts with the same username, but I'd rather not find out. It's probably going to result in a crash. So, to prevent that from happening, what I do is that I first say, hey, check the username, and if this username exists in all of the usernames, then I will stop for a moment and say, that's not good, we need to restart. So then, the other thing that happens is I have to do this crypto stream. So, normally in programming, things work chronologically, and that is to say that something happens in line 87 here, and then after that, line 88, and then after that, line 89, so on and so forth. But with the crypto stream, it's kind of weird because you have to set up a bunch of stuff, and then your later stuff has to refer to the stuff you've already set up. And I know that's kind of hard to just say, so I'm going to show you if I can figure out where it is. There we go. Okay. So, first I have to get the file stream. Now, why do I have to get a file stream? Well, I have to get a file stream because for whatever reason, the crypto stream, which is the thing that actually encrypts the file, can't write to a stream writer, which is what I would normally use. Also, this is me setting up the encryption machine. It's a standard AES encryption, as far as I am aware, which means it's pretty secure. And I can actually show you here. I have this example, which I will open in Notepad. And I have this Duncan, which I will also open in Notepad. Now, you can tell that one of these was encrypted and one of them wasn't. And actually, both Duncan and Example have the same password, except, again, one was encrypted and one wasn't. And as a matter of fact, because this one was not encrypted, this username and password no longer functions. And because this no longer functions, it's just here as a show piece, basically. And this example one has the exact same password, Panther $, except it is encrypted. So, next, I want to show you some of my timer stuff. So, you can see on the bottom here that I have Tim Auto Close, Tim Animate, and Tim Animate Fail. These are all timers, and I can designate when the timer ticks. So, for example here, the interval between ticks is, let me do some counting here, 1,800,000. But that is measured in milliseconds. Again, my face is blocking where it says that it's measured in milliseconds, so you just kind of have to trust me. Now, obviously, I don't have 180 milliseconds to spare, so you just kind of have to trust me when I say that when this thing ticks, it closes. And to prove that, I have a line of code somewhere. This. So when Tim autoclose ticks, which is in 180 milliseconds, also known as 30 minutes, this .close happens. Just shuts the program off. That's to make sure that you don't enter in your username and password, leave and get a Diet Coke, and then all of a sudden Jimmy from accounting comes in and messes with your stuff and accesses your account. I hope you've had a wonderful time educating me in this class, and I hope that I've been able to entertain you with this final episode of Stuck at Home Security. Good day.